welcome to the very first episode of UA Hustlers with me, Sparsh Kumar. Today is a very special day. It's a very special episode, and that calls for a very special guest. My guest today has had one of the most unique career trajectories in the recent past that I've come across. She has gone from being a marine engineer to being a mental health coach, and now being co-founder of Aries Dental and Aesthetics Clinic. Yeah, you heard me right. Those are three very different and unique domains. And mind you, she's an expert in all of these. One of the most fun-loving and lively people that I know. But the quality that I love the most about her is how self-aware she is and how down-to-earth she is. So please join me in welcoming Nia Sohan Roy. Nia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for making the time. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I'm really happy and honored that you made the time to come here today.
Always for you, for sure. I'll always make time for you.
Oh, thanks, Nia. All right, let's dive right in. So you started your career as a marine engineer first, yes?
Yeah.
So you did your bachelor's and your master's in the same field?
Yes.
Could you take us through your journey, how you got into it? What is it about the marine industry that got you interested? And you felt, you know what, I can make a career out of this industry.
So to be very honest, I would say I was more or less forced into it because growing up, my dad, he was a marine engineer, and he had his business, or he still has his business. It's a family business in the marine engineering field. So growing up, that is all I saw. And it was kind of drilled into my head and my sister's head that, you know what, you have a family business that you need to take care of. So that was all that we had in mind. We had no plan B. It was being a marine engineer just so that you can take care of the family business. So that was my only reason for doing the career that I did. And I still remember when I was in university, they asked us on the very first day. They asked the first question that they asked us, who has not been sailing, and it was just me and my sister. And so that would show you that we were the only two people in that class who had no idea about boats. I didn't even know the basic names, like what is a hull, what is a stern, what is all these names that everybody knew. We had no idea what it was. But we got through that, and I graduated, did my master's, everything, the whole deal, and joined the family business. And I remember 7 months in or 8 months in, you feel it in your gut. Oh my God, I'm stuck. I'm fucked. Because you have no plan B. Because I soon realized this is not what I want to do. This is not what I want to do. I don't have any other choice. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. But it was just that field that I got into, and I had to pretty much see it through.
Right. That actually brings me to my next question. When did you know that this is not for you? Or just walk me through the process of how you reached that stage, right? I mean, what were the signs, or what is it that you went through? Those small things that led you to realize, you know what, I really can't take it anymore. I need to put my foot down. This is not for me.
I think that moment of realization was when I started going into work and I started counting back time, in the sense that I started looking at, 7 hours left, 6 hours left, 5 hours left, until I had to leave. I think it got to such a point where the minute, I remember there was this one day I entered, and I went to work, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, oh my God, it's only been 15 minutes. So I think that is when it hit me, I cannot do this. I didn't see how I could live like this for the rest of my life. But I think whether it was a blessing or a curse, I think that when you go through something like that, it forces you to be curious about what could you do.
Right.
You know, it's like that. It's almost like when you're in danger,
Right.
you try to find a way out. You know,
Yes.
you try to, okay, how do I survive? How do I get out? And I think that was what my situation was at the time.
What I'm really curious about is how did you break it to your parents? Because before we dive into that, just a quick recap or a quick background to provide some context to our non-Asian viewers. It's very common in an Asian household for your parents to be involved in every single aspect of your life.
100%.
Because if you're not,
100%.
they will find a way to squeeze
100%.
themselves in.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so important things like your career decisions, etc., they influence it quite a lot, and their input is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So, Nia, how did you break it to them? What was the reaction like? How did you get their buy-in?
So there was no buy-in.
Expected.
There was no buy-in, and I think you're quite spot on with that. With what you said, I think. I, in some way, manifested a massive fight with my dad. That kind of like, you know, this huge dramatic fight. Like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like, khalas. And that led me to make a decision. You know what? Like, I'm not doing this. You know, I'm not doing it. But in that moment, I also realized that he needed me. You know, so I could see like, okay, no matter how angry or mad you're at with your parents, there is still that sense of loyalty.
Yes.
You know, you can't completely cut ties fully, no matter how mad you are or so on. So the best common ground that we found was I started working part-time, you know, which means, okay, instead of 9 hours a day, I'll do maybe 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
You know, but when I made that decision, it was not like I'm asking for permission. It's like, this is what I'm doing. Okay, this is how I'll meet in the middle. All right. And that was something that we mutually agreed on. But the next step was respect, which means whatever I did then after, it was trying to get his respect. It's like trying to get his approval, because now that I have time during my day, now it's like, okay, either I sit at home, do nothing, or do something with my time, right? And that's when I looked into changing careers.
Okay. So your next transition from here was a path that you took towards mental health coach. How did that come into being? How did you discover it?
Again, I think maybe a lot of people might resonate with this. I think a lot of answers come to you when you go through shit, because you are desperate for answers yourself. So in that particular period of my life, I've never even thought about going to therapy or anything like that up into like that. That wasn't even an idea that crossed my mind. But I was always fascinated by the human mind. So I remember when I joined, and when you now look back, or when I now look back, I can see how there were always signs that I missed out earlier on. So I remember when I just joined university, 6 months down the line, I started reading. That's when I actually picked up my reading habit, and I would only read about the mind or you know, self-help books and things like that. And 6 months down the line, after I just joined engineering, I remember having a call with my parents saying, I don't think I want to do engineering. I think I want to switch my career to psychology. And funny enough, their answer was like, "Of course, sure. If you wanna do psychology, then you know we can find a way. You can come back to Dubai. We can find you a nice place here in Dubai. You don't need to stay in the UK." So as an 18-year-old, you know, you're away from your parents. You have your independence. You taste what independence feels like. That's the last thing you want to do. Just leave that and
100%.
come back. So I'm like, you know what? Psychology can take a backseat. My independence needs to move forward now. So when fast forward, when I was in this particular time and space where I had that time with me to think about what I can do.
Right.
It literally gave me the space to just be curious about something that I enjoyed, which was just the mind. You know, how the mind works. Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Just finding a solution to just change what I'm feeling. And that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I have so much time. Let me look at what I can study. And I started looking up courses, and this is when hypnotherapy came up. And I was always fascinated by hypnotherapy, or what it can do, or how you can control the mind.
Yeah.
And that's when I signed up. And it was, I had zero intention to be a therapist or do this as a career. But since I started, it was something that I couldn't stop learning about. You know, it was like a black hole. It literally sucks you in, and that's exactly what it did. And I just started training and training and training, one thing after the other. And it was just a very seamless transition from studying to being a therapist. And because simultaneously I got a job offer to work at a center. So I don't think I went after it. I feel like it just kind of fell into my lap, and I was able to balance both very well. So I could at least be in touch with the family business to some extent in the mornings, and then I can do what I enjoyed thereafter.
Did you find it difficult to find some time for yourself, balancing both of this?
You know, it's funny because people talk about work-life balance, but I don't think that concept exists.
It's interesting you should say that, because I wanted to talk to you about it later.
I mean, as much as, you know, we can preach about it, or we can say, yes, you know, do that. I don't think it exists, because I personally think there are not many hours in a day for you to do everything you 100%. Want. However, I feel if you do something that you really enjoy, I don't think you would see it as work, because your energy levels, or when you do certain things, it's not being depleted. Therefore, when the energy required to do certain things, it comes very naturally. Therefore, the need for balance is not really necessary. So the way I started looking at it is I stopped looking at it as work. You know, and I started seeing this pattern when I started working with people, is that every person, and it's really strange, and I really can't explain it. Maybe other therapists also might relate to what I'm saying, but every person that come to you as a client, and the issues they come to you with, while you're talking to them about it, it almost feels like a mirror. Like the kind of people that you attract as clients, either they're going through issues you went through, they are going through issues that you are facing, or there's some kind of resonance that's happening. So while you are talking to them, it almost feels like it's a therapy for yourself as well. So it felt super energizing and refreshing to me while I was working as a therapist as well. So it never felt like I needed a break from it at all. That's I think the only people who complained were my parents, because they saw less of me.
Just out of curiosity, when it comes to being a therapist, are there different streams, different specialities that you do? If so, which one did you pick and why?
Yeah, so I work as a clinical hypnotherapist, so that comes under psychotherapy. So I'm not a clinical psychologist, so that's a completely different field. So the way I work is I work purely with the subconscious mind. So when it comes to working with the subconscious mind, the nature of the work that I do is purely getting into the root cause of any issues. So I don't work with medications or particular protocols per se when you talk about psychology, but it's an alternative approach to finding the root cause. So and the issues that you can work with, it can vary from, let's say, personal issues such as simple as stress management or for anxiety to something as deep as physical issues like autoimmune diseases or medical issues. So typically when you think about a hypnotherapist, the first thing that comes to your mind is someone who has a little pendulum in front of you and hypnotize you and make you act like a dog or fall asleep. That's literally the first thing that comes to mind. And when you have an issue, the last person you think about going to is a hypnotherapist. That's just the nature of it. But what hypnotherapy is, it's just a technique. So you're using hypnosis as a technique to induce a person to a trance-like state just so that you can get them to access their subconscious mind.
Do you ever feel like this has taken a toll on you emotionally or physically? Because you're talking to all these different people for all these different sessions, helping them navigate through their problems. So has that taken a toll on you?
It's a very good question because it's something that I get asked a lot. The way I would answer it is, as a therapist, you are trained to be very, very objective with what you're listening to, right? Which means when someone tells you about a particular, and you hear tons and tons of stories and you hear the craziest and the most bizarre stories, but in that moment, there's zero room for judgment. You get drained as a therapist when you get emotionally involved. And that is more or less a sign for yourself what is being triggered for you.
Okay.
That is one way of getting drained. A second way of getting drained is if you're not enjoying it. And for me, it's in some way, I find it really exciting when and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but when people cry or when people get sad, I get really excited because for me, that's a sign they're hitting the spot, right? So this work really, really excites me. And I don't think I've ever had a session where I felt bored. However, there are sessions where you do recognize the triggers. So to answer your questions, feeling drained, not I would say quite rarely.
Now, Nia, another thing now I'm curious about. So you are doing hypnotherapy. You are also working with your dad, having a pretty awesome life, I would say. And now you're hit with the Aries Dental and Aesthetics Clinic.
Yeah.
Completely different from what you've been doing.
Oh, yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, this is a question that I still ask myself. But okay. So this happened about 7-8 months ago now. I mean, we just opened 7-8 months ago, but the whole planning was literally a year ago. Even that, I would say it was something that wasn't planned. Did not plan it one bit. It was something, again, was pushed. I would say I was pushed into, fell onto my lap, because the way it happened was it was a project that my dad was directly involved in with someone we knew. They wanted to work together, but when it came to the paperwork, it was just a little bit more easier if he wasn't directly involved, just to avoid any kind of issues in the future, because he had a lot of businesses, right? So just for that reason, he was like, okay, Nia, I'm going to put your name instead. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. But even the idea that I had in mind was I didn't have to get so involved.
Right.
It had nothing to do with me. I didn't have any interest in wanting to get involved. It's an industry that I have zero idea about. But once your name is on something and, you have to sign papers, you have to, you need to make certain decisions, you need to know about it. You can't be oblivious about it. And that's how I got dragged in. And now I'm in a position where I had to actively choose to stop my therapy work just so I can fully focus on this. And to be honest, it's been so exciting. Never in a million years did I even imagine
Right.
that this is something that I ever be involved in,
Yeah.
but I absolutely love it. Super
That's what
exciting.
matters. That's what matters, right? And when you started setting this up, did you find it challenging at all, starting a company?
Oh my God,
from
hell
ground up?
yes. Imposter syndrome is a bitch.
It's real.
It's real, so real, because it's like identity crisis all over again. Because here you are thinking you're one thing,
Yeah.
and then you build a certain thing for yourself, and you feel really good about yourself, and then here you are again. You have no idea what you're talking about. No one's you have someone like on your head, okay, you, like with the numbers, and you have this pressure, and then you can't screw up. There's like zero room to screw up, and then you question yourself, okay, what am I doing here? Like, why am I doing this? Honestly, I think the first few months was really tough, definitely, because you can't show it. I think that was it for me. I couldn't show it on the outside because it's when you're dealing with people, you have to maintain, at least I had to maintain a level of composure, because it was one of those situations, if they can sense that you are freaking out, they're freaking out. Yeah. So, but then you are managing it internally. But no, I would say it was super challenging. I don't think it's easy at all, for sure.
When you started this ground up, the kind of work that went into it, what would you say was some of the most important things that you learned that anyone who wants to start their own company you would recommend or advise?
Number one thing is hiring the right team. I think it's one of the things that I had to learn is what really hurts your business is having the wrong people on your team. And it's always that you're always going to go with this fight. You look at hiring someone because they're cost effective, but then you might risk that they're not going to be competent enough. So I feel like competency was the biggest lesson. So now, whenever I'm hiring someone new, I have to make sure they're competent in what they do. I think that is one thing that I would highly advise that people should be aware of. That is one thing. And second thing is trying to be the good boss.
Okay. How do you do that?
And I feel like, for a long time, maybe this is a people pleaser in me. I didn't want to hurt feelings. I didn't want to step on toes. I didn't want to, ruffle any feathers. I wanted my staff to like me, because for me, my way of getting them to do what they should be doing is being nice. Be nice to them. Be that good boss. And if they love you, they will do their work. Because from what I saw with my dad was the exact opposite. It was the dictatorship. It was the Hitler. And that got the work done. But I'm like, you know what? People can still do their work. You don't have to be that way. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be the other kind of boss where people will do what they need to do, and I can make it work. That doesn't work.
Good to know.
I feel like it. I think it's very easy for people to. I don't know. I'm losing the word. Take you for granted. Exactly. Take you for granted, because they get a lot more disappointed later on when you put on the tough boss hat than if you were to just be like straight up from the get-go. Because it's when you change your tone, when you change your ways a little bit later on, that's when they get a lot more ruffled. So, and I think this is what I learned. I think these were the two major lessons that I learned along the way. It's, there's a certain kind of mutual respect, understanding, and hierarchy that needs to be maintained for a particular kind of workforce. And a lot of people may disagree with me on that, maybe, and maybe the good boss works for a lot of people. Right. But I realize for the way for what needs to be done in the space that I work in, there needs to be a certain kind of structure and a tone that needs to be set. So there is efficiency.
Okay. I bet your dad went like, I told you so.
Oh yeah. This is what I've been telling you. Oh, I told you so. I was like, but you know what? I must say there was a deep level of respect that I felt for him. And I think there's a lot of understanding now that I see like it's
why he does what he does.
Why he does what he does. You know, it's and this also shows it's so easy for people to judge someone from the outside. Me. Right. It's so easy for me to just look at him from the outside, be like, oh, what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is, you know, it's so easy for me to say that, but it's only when you're in someone's shoes and you walk that path, you really understand what it takes and
100%.
Why they do what they do.
Yeah, I'm sure you face a lot of challenges when you set up the company. It's not easy, of course. What was the kind of mindset you had when you went into this? Is there maybe some things you developed over time that helped you deal with these issues, or some innate qualities that you had that really helped you manage all of this?
I think if there's one thing, it was breathing. Just breathing. Just if there's, and what I mean by that is perhaps because of maybe the therapy work that or the knowledge that I gained because of that, it's just the idea of slowing down your breath, or just using your breath to control your emotions. I think that has been the biggest guiding light for me, or like the biggest savior, I would say, because there are moments where you want to cry. There are moments where you know, you're mad, you're upset, and that has happened. You know, I still remember that the first time I had to put on the bad boss hat, I immediately went and cried. Like literally right after that, I went to the toilet, I started crying, but it's in those moments. It's the breathing, coming back to the breathing that has always helped me. And I think it's such an untapped or unused tool, and it's so available, but not many people know how they should be using it or how they can use it and how useful it is.
In our last conversation a few weeks ago when we spoke, there was something very interesting you mentioned. You spoke about transferable skills. So you have these three very different domains. What is those common transferable skills that you took from each of these in this journey? So
when you are an engineer, you are trained with structure. So let's say the maths that go behind it, the calculation. So you have a very structured way of looking at things. You know, analytical, that's the word. The very analytical way of looking at it. Now, when I moved into the therapy side of things, yes, there's looking at the emotional side of people, but the analytical aspect is what helped me the most, because when you are listening, it's not just about the story, but you are connecting dots. And when you're trying to connect dots, it's like a mathematical equation that goes in my head. So you may be telling me about how bad your boyfriend is, how narcissistic it is, and And that's one thing that I'm looking at, but on the back end, what I'm analyzing is how you got there, what you're getting out of it. So it's all that analytical side of things that comes from the engineering aspect, I feel, that really helped me. Now, when it comes to as an entrepreneur, I feel it is definitely the people management. That is one aspect, but also what's the right word? I don't want to use manipulation, but for the lack of better words, manipulation is a big element that I indirectly learned from therapy. So calculated manipulation that when you look at marketing, it uses calculated manipulation. And so like, I think these are the qualities or skills I feel like I indirectly picked up, and I feel you can use it in anything. So even if it's not entrepreneurship, if you look at it in other areas of your life, relationships, you can
Of course.
works.
And so, Nia, you're born and raised here. Do you think that has given you an edge when it comes to doing all of these things or starting your own company in any way compared to an expat who's new to the country? Or does it really matter or no?
I don't think it matters to a drastic extent. I think maybe having an understanding of different areas, or like maybe the target market, having an understanding of, okay, who your target market is, the target area is, maybe having a little bit of an idea of that, just because I know what area represents what, maybe that can be an upper hand. But when I'm talking from more of an entrepreneur, it doesn't really, because if you're looking at the more of a marketing aspect, you will have a team for that. You will have a person specifically for that. So you're not really getting involved to that extent, but maybe for your own knowledge, that can help. But no, I don't think being a local or being a resident or having lived here for so long, I don't think that really played a
major role.
No, I don't think so. No. But I would say for anyone coming or thinking about starting a business in the UAE, I think it's such an excellent Dubai is full of opportunities.
Agreed.
I highly encourage it. I don't think anybody should even second guess it. If you have the finances, the resources, the ability, the opportunity, you should 100% go for it. Yeah.
What would you say Aries Dental and Aesthetics Clinic is doing different from your competition?
So one is looking at it more of a holistic approach, which means let's take a treatment such as a weight loss treatment, right? You will have there are so many machines. You have the cooling machines, you have the muscle building machines, and so on. But if you're health conscious, you would know that when it comes to any kind of weight loss or fat loss or whatever, if it really was that easy, people would be doing it all the time. Right? If it's really that sustainable, people would be doing it all the time, but it's not. Right? And it's only because they're not educated about it. And one of the things that we do is we educate our staff about when they're doing the treatment, why they're doing the treatment. So hence why the people that we have on board are people who are very, very passionate about what they do, rather and more at a deeper level rather than a superficial level. So if you're coming for a particular issue, the solution would be whole rounded, pretty much.
This comes back to your point of hiring the right talent. So this is made much easier because of that.
Exactly. So this is why we're looking at genetic tests. This is why we're looking at tests that support more of a holistic approach.
Okay. And what do you do for you, Nia? What is Nia time? What does Nia time look like? If there is a Nia time.
There is a Nia time. Okay, the first three things that come to mind is with my dogs. So I always make sure right before I go to bed or right before I leave for work, I get about 1 hour to 30 minutes with my dogs. And I think they're the best stress busters.
Can agree with you more.
That's one thing for sure. Then the gym in the mornings always. So some kind of movement in the body. That's the second one. And very occasionally when I have the energy for some kind of social interaction, I'd either go salsa dancing or then meet up with friends or something. But yeah, I would say these three would be my you time.
And what's next for Nia? Which other domains are you going to conquer?
Next, we are looking at we just recently started this new avenue into medical tourism. So we just officially signed as one of the partners of DHA as a medical tourism facilitator. So pretty much connect.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's an exciting new field, super untapped here in Dubai as well, because there are not many legit facilitators. So,
so what would you do as a facilitator?
So you are essentially connecting people to the right hospitals, the right doctors, because you have a pool of network.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And right now, let's say if you wanted to go to a doctor or so on, you would have to do your research. You would have to, find the right person. So going to a medical facilitator like us, this is either for residents here in Dubai or for people abroad. So people trying to move to Dubai or look for treatments in Dubai. They don't know who's out here. We would be the point of contact.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So connecting people to the right doctors, right hospitals, right treatments. That's what we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I'm really excited about, and yeah, it's putting your feet into new avenues that are in some way related, and I feel there's something like it's super exciting, super exciting.
That's awesome, yeah, and I'm really happy that you're doing this. And that's it for today. And thank you so much for coming today and having this conversation with us. It's been so insightful, so exciting. And I just want to say I'm so proud of what you're doing and what you've achieved. And I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for creating that space that allowed me to open up. And I think that was very important for me. Just, talking about things that I don't really necessarily talk about. Yeah. And thank you for creating that for me. So it's always
anytime. It's always a pleasure. And I'm glad you chose this platform to do that.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope today's conversation was insightful and you were able to pick something that could potentially help you in your day-to-day life. If you're curious about any of the services that's offered by Aries Dental and Aesthetics Clinic, do check out their Instagram handle. The link is mentioned in the description below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time. Until then, keep smashing it, keep growing, and relentlessly chase your dreams. Thank you.